Left to die in the dust, the desert had no mercy. 2 suns burned high in the sky. The wind was dry and cruel, blowing sand across the endless land. Nothing moved except the shadows of vultures flying above. On the ground, half buried in sand, lay a young alien woman. Her skin was cracked. Her face was bruised. Her long silver hair was tangled and full of dirt. Her body didn't move. She looked dead, but she was still alive. Her name was Kira. Her own family had left her here to die. They called her weak. They said she was a shame to the clan. She had no fighting spirit, no killer instinct. On her planet, that meant she had no value. So they tied her hands and dropped her in the middle of this deadly place. No food, no water, no way back. The vultures circled closer. Kira opened her eyes for a second. The light was too strong. Her lips were dry. She couldn't speak, couldn't scream. She didn't have the strength anymore. A vulture landed nearby. It looked at her with cold, black eyes. She blinked. The bird jumped closer. Kira closed her eyes. This was it. No one was coming. Then, a loud bang. The vulture dropped dead, a small hole in its side. Smoke rose from its feathers, footsteps in the sand. Heavy boots. A shadow fell across her face. Someone was there. She tried to look but couldn't move her neck. The figure knelt beside her. She saw a flash of silver armor. Then, a helmet came off, a face, not alien, a human. His skin was sunburned. His brown eyes scanned her with concern. He touched her neck gently, checking her pulse. She's alive, he whispered to himself. She didn't understand the words, but the tone was calm, not angry, not cruel. The man reached into his bag and pulled out a water bottle. He poured a little on her lips. Cold water. Her eyes opened wider. He smiled gently. There you go. She drank what little she could. It felt like life itself. The man pulled out a scanner and waved it over her body. It beeped, showing internal injuries, dehydration, and heat stroke. This is bad, he muttered. He looked around. The vultures were gone now, scared by the sound of his weapon, but the desert was still deadly. If he stayed too long, they'd both die. So he lifted her gently in his arms. She was light, too light, like someone who hadn't eaten for days. He carried her toward a small ship hidden behind a rocky hill. It was sleek, old, but still working. The ramp lowered as he approached. Inside, the air was cooler. He laid her on a soft bed, then attached a medical patch to her chest. She groaned. You're safe now, he said. Her eyes opened again. She stared at him, confused. No one had ever said those words to her. He tapped a device on his wrist. A soft voice came from it. Translating, she blinked, confused. My name is Daniel, he said slowly. I am from Earth. Kira's lips moved. She tried to speak, but only air came out. Daniel poured more water, helping her drink. You don't have to talk now, he said. Just rest. Her eyes studied him. Why was he helping her? He looked like a soldier, but not like the ones from her world. He wasn't cold. He didn't laugh at her. He didn't call her names. He treated her like she mattered. She had never felt that before. As she drifted into sleep, she heard him talking into a radio. Found an alien woman abandoned in the desert. Injured, barely alive, no ID tag, looks like her own people left her. I'm bringing her in. The last thing she felt before sleep was a blanket covering her shoulders. Warm, soft, safe. For the first time in her life, Kira didn't dream of running away. She dreamed of being saved. She's not an enemy. The ship hummed softly as it flew above the clouds, heading toward the nearest Earth outpost. Kira opened her eyes slowly. Her body still hurt, but the pain was dull now. The hard desert heat was gone. Cool air touched her face. Clean bandages wrapped her arms. She wasn't dead. She was safe. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then she heard a voice. You're awake, She turned her head fast, her heart jumping. It was him, the human who saved her. He sat on the other side of the room, cleaning a strange-looking weapon. He wasn't wearing the helmet now, just simple armor and calm eyes. Kira sat up, suddenly, alert. She looked around. No chains, no guards, just soft light and silence. She didn't speak. Her throat was still dry and her mind was confused. He noticed her fear. Slowly, he put the weapon down and raised both hands in the air. "No harm," he said gently, then tapped the device on his wrist. A robotic voice repeated in her language, "No harm." Kira narrowed her eyes. She had heard of humans before. Wild, warlike creatures. Many stories in her clan said they were cruel monsters from a savage, death world. But the man in front of her didn't look cruel. He looked tired and kind. She opened her mouth but could only whisper, "Why?" The man leaned forward. "Why what?" The translator spoke again. "Why save me?" The question was simple, but his face grew serious. He looked down for a moment, then said, "Because you were left to die. And I don't leave people behind." The translator repeated the words in her language. Kira stared at him. That didn't make sense. On her world, weakness was thrown away. No one saved the broken. The human stood up and brought her a small tray with food and water. He placed it near her, then backed away. Kira waited. Was this a trick? Poison? A trap? Her hands shook as she reached for the food. She sniffed it first. No, smell of poison. Just warm bread and soft fruit. Her stomach growled loudly. She looked up at the man. He didn't laugh. He just nodded and said, "Eat." She took a small bite. Then another, then more. Tears came to her eyes, but she blinked them away. He sat back down and watched her carefully. "I'm Daniel," he said. "Kira," she replied softly. Daniel smiled. "Nice to meet you, Kira." They sat in silence for a moment. Then, the alarm beeped. Daniel stood fast and ran to the screen. "What is it?" Kira asked. He didn't answer right away. On the screen, 3 fast-moving ships approached. Alien symbols blinked red. Daniel's face turned serious. "We've got company." Kira walked slowly to the window and looked out. She recognized the shapes. Her clan. They had come for her. "They don't give up," she whispered. "They sent more?" Daniel asked. "They don't like shame," she said. "I'm their shame." Daniel grabbed his rifle. "Well, they'll have to get through me first." Kira's eyes widened. "You can't fight them all." He turned to her. "Do you trust me?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Yes." "Then stay inside," he said. "Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me." "But why?" she asked again. "Why do this for me?" He looked straight at her. "Because someone should have done it for you a long time ago." And then he left the ship. The door closed behind him with a soft hiss. Kira ran to the window, her hands pressed against the glass. She saw him walking, across the sand, standing tall against the wind, facing 3 enemy ships alone. The clan warriors stepped out. Kira's heart pounded. They laughed at him, raised their weapons. But Daniel didn't move. He was ready to fight. For her. For someone who had never been protected before. Kira touched the glass and whispered, "He's not like them. He's not like anyone." Protect the weak 3 warriors from Kira's clan stepped forward, their boots crushing the sand with pride. Their armor was dark red, marked with the sharp symbols of their house. Long rifles hung across their backs, but their hands reached for close weapons, blades, spears, and fists. They didn't expect a fight, they expected a cleanup. "Where is the girl?" One of them barked. The human, Daniel, stood alone in front of his ship, the desert wind blowing his coat behind him. His helmet was clipped to his belt. His face showed no fear. "She's not going back with you," he said firmly. The translator repeated it in the alien tongue. The lead warrior chuckled. You speak bravely, Earthling, but she is weak. She belongs to no one. You protect garbage. Daniel raised his rifle. She belongs to herself. Another warrior growled. Step aside or die with her. Daniel didn't move. Kira watched. Everything from the ship window, her hands pressed against the glass, her whole body trembled. No one ever stood for her. No one. Until now. The warriors moved first. The lead one rushed forward with his blade high. Daniel ducked and fired once. Oh, clean shot to the leg. The warrior screamed and dropped. The second one came from the side, swinging a heavy metal club. Daniel blocked it with his arm, grunted and kicked the attacker hard in the chest. The warrior flew back into the sand. The last one pulled out a shock spear and aimed it at Daniel's chest, but Daniel threw sand into his face and tackled him. To the ground. 3 warriors, all down. Kira's mouth fell open. She had never seen her people defeated so easily, especially not by one man. Daniel stood there, breathing hard, rifle still aimed. The warriors groaned in pain, unable to rise. He looked up at the sky. Another ship was coming. Smaller. Not a warship. A scout. Daniel ran back to the ship. The doors opened automatically. Kira stepped back, shocked. He looked at her and said, "They'll send more. We need to leave. Now." She followed him into the cockpit. He pressed a few buttons and the engines roared to life. As the ship rose from the ground, she looked down at the warriors crawling through the dust. She had been in that dust once. Left. To die. Now she was in the sky, with someone who had chosen to fight beside her. Daniel set the ship on autopilot and turned to her. "You okay?" Kira nodded slowly, then asked, "Why did you really help me?" He paused. "My world. Earth. We lost a lot of people in war. I was a soldier. I know what it's like to be thrown away." He looked at her, eyes soft. "You're not garbage. You're not weak. You were just surrounded by the wrong people." Kira sat down quiet. "No one's ever said that to me," she whispered. "They should have," he replied. "A long time ago." Silence filled the cabin, but it wasn't heavy. It felt safe. Warm. Then Kira said something even she didn't expect. "Will you teach me?" Daniel blinked. "Teach you what?" "To fight, like you." He looked at her, serious now. "You sure?" She nodded. "If they come again, I don't want to be afraid." Daniel smiled, just a little. "All right then," he said. "Lesson 1 starts tomorrow." Kira looked out the window again. The stars didn't seem so far anymore. A broken, past, a fragile bond. The ship floated above the clouds, calm and silent. The stars outside the window blinked softly, like tiny fires in a black sea. Inside, Kira sat cross-legged on the floor, her back against the wall, a blanket over her shoulders. Her wounds were healing, but inside, she still felt broken. Daniel was at the control panel running ship scans. They hadn't spoken much since they left the desert behind. The silence wasn't awkward. It was heavy. Like both of them were, carrying invisible weights. Finally, Daniel walked over and sat across from her. He placed a small box between them. Inside were 2 energy bars and a silver flask of clean water. "Eat," he said. She picked one up and took a small bite. Then asked softly, "Why do you live like this? Alone?" Daniel leaned his head against the wall. "I wasn't always alone," he said. "I had a team, soldiers, friends. We served together for 5 years." "What happened?" she asked. He didn't speak right away. Then his voice turned low. "A bad mission. We trusted the wrong people. Half my squad was wiped out. I made it out. They didn't. The higher-ups blamed me, said I didn't fight hard enough." Kira stared at him. "You were punished?" Daniel nodded. "Stripped of rank. Sent home. I left Earth instead." "That's not fair," she whispered. He shrugged. "War isn't fair." Kira looked down at her hands. She turned her left palm upward and showed him a long scar. "This is from my mother," she said. When I was 7, I broke a bowl while helping in the kitchen. She said clumsy hands meant a weak soul. Daniel's face darkened. She burned me with hot metal, Kira added, voice flat. Said it would make me stronger. Daniel clenched his jaw. That's not strength, that's abuse. She said weakness spreads like a sickness. My brother used to beat me before battle tests. Said I'd bring shame if I failed. Did you fail? He asked. I always passed, she said. But they never said well done, just told me I should have done better. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then he said, You didn't deserve that. Kira looked up at him, eyes moist. Then why did no one stop it? Daniel shook his head. Because some people are cowards. They stay silent when they should speak. He leaned forward now, voice steady. But I'm not silent anymore. Not when I see someone worth standing for. Kira blinked slowly. No one had ever said she was worth anything before. A soft beep broke the silence. Daniel stood and walked to the console. He frowned. What is it? She asked. There's a signal coming from inside the ship, he said. A tracer. Someone is tracking us. Kira's eyes widened. No, she whispered. It's me. They put it inside me. Daniel turned quickly. What? My clan. Before they left me. They marked me like property. Beneath my skin. It glows sometimes under the light. Daniel grabbed a scanner and waved it over her neck and shoulder. A small red dot flashed just below her collarbone. There it is, he said. It's active. Kira backed away, panic in her eyes. They'll find us. Daniel pulled open a medical kit. We'll take it out. She hesitated. It's close to nerves. If you cut wrong, I won't, he said firmly. I was a medic before I became a soldier. She lay down on the table. Her hands clenched tightly. Daniel cleaned the area and prepared a small injector. No painkiller, he warned. We don't have enough time. I can take it, she whispered. He worked fast and carefully, sweat ran down his forehead. Kira bit her lip until it bled, but didn't cry out. After 3 minutes, he pulled out the small glowing chip. Got it. He crushed it under his boot and threw the broken pieces into the waste burner. It's done, he said. Kira breathed out, in pain and relief. No more tracking. Daniel covered her with a blanket and sat beside her. You did good. She smiled weakly. You're not so bad for a human. He chuckled. You're not so bad for an alien. They sat quietly again. But this time the silence felt lighter. The past still hurt. But now they were not facing it alone. The monster. They unleashed. The night was cold on the rocky moon where Daniel had landed for repairs. The stars above were sharp and still, but something down below was moving. Quiet, deadly. Inside the ship, Kira stood in front of a mirror. She wore a simple training suit now, her old rags gone. Bruises still marked her arms, but her eyes had changed. They weren't afraid anymore. Daniel entered the room. Power's back online. We can fly again. Kira nodded. Good. Then, we can leave before they find us. Daniel didn't answer. He looked uneasy. What is it? She asked. He turned on the main screen. It showed a heat signal outside the ship. Large, fast, non-human. It's not one of your people, he said. It's something else, something big. Kira's face turned pale. No, not that. They really sent it? They really... What is it? Daniel asked. She stepped back, her voice shaking. The Shadow Beast, a creature made from bioweapons. They release it to erase their shame completely. It doesn't just kill, it eats everything. No remains. Daniel grabbed his weapon. Let me guess. They trained it to hunt you. She nodded. It follows the last scent of weakness. The lights in the ship flickered. A loud thump shook the hull. It had arrived. Daniel ran to the door. Stay here. No, Kira said. I'm done hiding. He looked at her. You're not ready. I wasn't ready the day they left me to die, she said, picking up a pulse pistol. But I survived. Daniel paused, then nodded. Together, they stepped out into the night. The beast waited. It was huge, almost 3 times Daniel's size. Its skin looked like black stone with metal spikes growing from its spine. Its mouth had no lips, just rows of dripping teeth. Its eyes glowed a sickly green. It didn't speak, it only roared. Daniel shot first. The blast hit the beast's shoulder, but it barely flinched. The monster charged. Daniel rolled to the side, firing again. The beast swiped with its claws, cutting deep into the ship's hull. Kira aimed and fired, but the shot bounced off its chest. "We need a weak spot," Daniel shouted. Kira ran to higher ground, climbing the rocks. She remembered something, an old rumor. "The neck," she yelled. "The joints under its chin, that's where they inject control fluid." Daniel nodded. He loaded an explosive round. The beast turned and leaped toward Kira. She screamed and fell. The beast opened its jaws. Boom! Daniel's shot hit the neck joint dead on. The monster jerked, roaring in pain. Green liquid sprayed from its throat. But it wasn't dead. It turned to Daniel now, furious. Daniel backed up, gun empty. The monster charged. Kira, bleeding from her arm, saw it happening and acted. She grabbed a fallen energy canister from the ground, ran toward the beast and threw it. Daniel understood instantly. He shot the canister in midair. "Kiara Kum!" The explosion threw the beast into the air. Fire lit up the rocks. Smoke filled the sky. Silence. Then the body dropped to the ground, blackened, unmoving. It was over. Kira dropped to her knees, breathing hard. Daniel rushed to her. "You okay?" She nodded. I fought." "You didn't just fight," he said. "You saved us." She smiled faintly. "I didn't know I could." Daniel helped her stand. "You're not weak," he said. She looked down at the burning body of the creature that was meant to erase her. "Not anymore," she whispered. End of part 5. Word count, 800. Let me know when you're ready for part 6. Hunted by her own blood. The story will continue to rise in tension as the clan tries one last time to reclaim or destroy her. You said, start with part 6. More unique ChatGPT said, part 6, hunted by her own blood. 800 words. Third-person style. Simple basic English. The fire from the beast's body still burned behind them, glowing against the dark moon. Kira sat beside Daniel inside the ship, both of them silent. Smoke still clung to her hair. Her hands trembled, but it wasn't from fear. It was the weight of what she had done. "I killed it," she whispered. "I really killed it." Daniel nodded. "You saved both of us." She shook her head. "They sent that thing to erase me, not scare me, not capture me, just erase." "They failed," he said. But Kira's eyes stared past him, distant. "They will try again." Daniel turned toward the controls. "Let's get to Earth's outpost. There's a peace station nearby. You'll be protected there." Kira stood slowly, her legs still weak. "They won't listen to reason. My people only understand fear or power." Daniel looked back at her, calm but firm. "Then it's time they see what real power looks like." Hours later, the ship landed on a silver platform high above a blue planet. The Earth Peace Outpost was small but guarded by shield towers and human patrol drones. As they stepped out, soldiers stared at Kira with curiosity, but no one raised a weapon. Daniel walked ahead, leading her through the metal halls until they reached a room full of screens and glowing tables. Commander Leon, a tall woman in a sharp blue uniform, turned to face them. "I've read your report, Sergeant Hayes," she said. "And you, Kira, your presence is making waves." "I didn't mean to," Kira replied. "Your own people claim you've gone rogue, that you've been infected by human thinking." Daniel smirked. "Compassion must be the infection." Commander Leon looked serious. They're sending a diplomatic ship here, not to talk, to take her back. They say she must face clan judgment. Daniel stepped forward. If they try to take her by force, they won't, Leon said. Not while she's under our flag, but they're bringing her brother. Kira froze. Her voice cracked. My brother? Commander Leon nodded. High Warlord Voss. He commands the family now. Daniel turned to Kira. We don't have to meet them, we can run. But Kira stood taller. No, she said. If I keep running, they win. This time, I speak. The next day, the alien warship arrived. It was shaped like a black blade, cutting through the sky. From it, a group of armored warriors marched out. At their front, Voss, Kira's older brother. He was taller than Daniel, broad-shouldered, and wore golden-red armor. His eyes were as cold as ice, and when they met Kira's, he sneered. So, he said, the shadow survives. Kira said nothing. You were always weak, he continued. Now you hide behind humans? Commander Leon stepped forward. She is under Earth's protection. This is neutral ground. Voss ignored her. Kira, if you surrender now, I will ask the Council to end your life quickly. Daniel's coy jaw tightened. You speak like a monster. Voss turned to him. And you speak for broken things. You don't understand our way. Daniel stepped closer. I understand enough to know your way needs to end. Kira raised her hand. She stepped between them, and for the first time she spoke not as prey, but as her own voice. I'm not going back, she said loudly. Voss frowned. You were born a curse. You will die a stain. No, Kira said. I was born into fear, but I lived through pain, and that makes me stronger than you. The warriors behind Voss looked at each other. Some were surprised, others unsure. Voss hissed. You think Earth will protect you forever? I don't need protection anymore, she said. I need justice and freedom, and I will fight for both. Commander Leon nodded to her guards. Then Earth stands with her. Weapons powered up. Tension filled the air. But Voss paused. His eyes scanned Kira again. Something in her had changed. She didn't shake. She didn't beg. She looked him in the eye like an equal. He turned to leave. This is not over, he warned. No, Kira said. It's just beginning. She chose to live. The Earth Peace Council hall was silent. So silent Kira could hear her own breath. She stood at the center of the chamber, a circle of alien and human leaders seated around her, each one watching, waiting. Their eyes judged. Their ears listened, but none of them truly knew her. Not yet. Behind her, Daniel stood with his arms crossed. His ribs were still wrapped in bandages, but his face was strong, calm. He had faced war. He had faced monsters. But Kira, she had faced her own family and survived. A robotic voice echoed from above. Kira of Clan Visari, you are accused of dishonor, rebellion, and spreading weakness. The council awaits your statement. The voice faded. The lights dimmed slightly. Everyone turned to her. Kira took a breath, then another. Her legs were steady. Her hands were no longer shaking, and then she began. I was born on a desert world, she said. My people believed in strength. Only one kind. The kind that kills. The kind that conquers. She paused. Let the words settle. I was not that kind of strong. She lifted her sleeve, showing the old burn scar on her arm. My mother did this when I spilled food. I was 7. She said it would teach me to be better. A few murmurs passed through the council seats. I trained hard. I studied. I passed every test. But it was never enough, because they had already decided. I was broken. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't tremble. It cut. When I refused to kill a helpless prisoner during a training ritual, they made their final judgment. I was unworthy, a stain on the clan. She looked directly at one of the alien elders. an old man with deep, silver eyes. They left me in the desert, tied, bleeding, alone. They sent vultures to finish me. She pointed to Daniel now, but he came instead. Daniel didn't move, but his jaw tightened slightly. A human, Kira continued, from a world my people say is wild and violent, but he gave me water. He treated my wounds. He fought for me when I couldn't stand. Her eyes circled the chamber. Tell me, who is truly strong? The one who strikes the weak, or the one who protects them? A moment of silence. Then she stepped closer to the circle. My brother, their new leader, called me a disease. So they sent a monster to destroy me. A creature made of science and death. But I fought it, and I won. Gasps this time. Some eyes widened. Kira turned slowly. I didn't win because I'm perfect or powerful. I won because I wanted to live. Now her voice rose, not loud, but firm. Real. I chose to live. Not because life was kind, but because I was done letting others decide my worth. She took another breath. My people say I am dangerous now, that I've been infected by Earth's ways. They're right. A pause. I was infected with the idea that life has value, that pain doesn't make you less, that healing is strength, that freedom is worth fighting for. The room stayed still. Then she finished. I am not asking to be protected. I am not begging for a home. I am claiming my right to exist, to speak, to choose my future. And I choose it. Here. Silence. And then, clap. One human ambassador clapped. Then another. Then a third. Some aliens followed. Not all, but enough? The council leader stood slowly. Council members will now vote. Does Kira of Clan Visari have the right to remain under Earth's protection as a free citizen? One by one, hands lifted. Screens flashed green. Only a few blinked red. The final result, majority approval. The room let out a breath it didn't know it had been holding. Commander Leon stepped forward. It is done. You are free. Kira nodded, but said nothing. She walked off the platform, her heart full. She didn't cry. Not yet. Daniel met her halfway down the steps. You did it, he said softly. Kira looked at him. No, she replied. We did it. Weeks passed. Kira didn't go back to hiding. She stayed at the Earth outpost. She trained with their soldiers. She learned their language, their systems, their ways of war and peace. But more than that, she taught. Other outcasts came, aliens who were broken, unwanted, lost. She trained them to fight, not to kill, but to stand, to defend. They called her Firestep, because wherever she walked, strength followed. One day, Daniel came to the training field. You've built something here, he said. She smiled. Something better than vengeance. He handed her a small case. What's this? She asked. He nodded. Earth citizenship badge. Signed and approved. She opened it. Inside was her name, Kira, no longer of Clan Visari. Just Kira, free alive, whole. She looked at Daniel. You changed my life. Daniel shook his head. You saved your own life. I just gave you a chance. Kira nodded. Then reached into her pouch and pulled something out, a small burned metal ring. Once part of the beast they killed, she handed it to him. A reminder, she said. Of what? He asked. She looked up at the stars. That even when the world throws you away, you can still rise. Daniel smiled, slipping the ring into his pocket. They stood there for a moment, two warriors who had no army behind them, only heart, fire, and a past they refused to be chained to. The stars above blinked again, but this time they didn't look distant. They looked like the future,